As a Christian woman, do you know the importance of creating boundaries? Do you know the importance of making boundaries pertaining to relationships, pertaining to maybe the people around you? I'm going to talk about the story of Genesis 24 when Abraham was about getting a wife for Isaac. And if you are a wise and intentional woman, creating boundaries, making boundaries, putting boundaries and structure in place is not an act of selfishness. It's not an act of being proud, but it is wisdom, it is intentionality, and it is discipline, right? If you're going to be that woman that God has called you to be, that woman of purpose, that woman of integrity, that woman of character, that woman who safeguards her peace, then creating boundaries is not a license, it's not a question, it's not an option. So going back to the story of Genesis chapter 24, which I'll definitely encourage you to go and read for yourself. It talks about how Abraham was going to get a wife for his son Isaac. The Bible says Abraham was very old, but he knew that if he probably allowed Isaac to make the choice of part of wife for himself, he might probably make the wrong choices. So Abraham took it upon himself, knowing the prophecy of God on his life, on his generation, on his descendants. Abraham knew that there was no way that he was going to leave this to chance, and he decided to do it by himself. That is the importance, right? So Abraham went ahead to tell his servants to go to his people to get a wife for his son Isaac. Now, when the servant asked, what if the woman I get does not want to come back here? Do you want me to take your son back to the people? Abraham says, no, never you take my son there. So in this Bible passage, we see that Abraham was bent on making sure that his son did not get married to a Canaan woman. Secondly, to make sure that his son did not go back to his father's or his country land. And these are some of the reasons. One, Abraham knew the call of God on his life. He knew the prophecy that God had given, and he knew that for that prophecy to be made manifest, it was important that his spirituality and the cultural integrity of his family stays intact. The people of Canaan were idol worshippers. And if Isaac was to get married to a Canaan woman, then it would happen that the woman was going to come into the family and probably raise the children in an ungodly way, which was going to be counterproductive to God's prophecy for the world, to God's prophecy for Abraham. And so Abraham said, I'm going to go back to my fatherland and get a wife for my son. That is very important. That was a boundary that Abraham was setting. And even when the servant asked him, if the woman refused to come back with me, should I take your son over there? Abraham said, no, never you take my son over there. And Abraham was very sure to say, the God that I serve and the God that has carried me all through now is going to give you a wife for my son. You see, so Abraham was very particular about the person that his son get married to. How about you? How intentional and what boundaries have you put in place to make sure that you marry the right person? The Bible says that we should not be unequally yoked. However, some of us go ahead to make the choice of a partner based on other things, looks, maybe finances, maybe parents, or maybe just for political status and all that. But God is calling you not to compromise on the boundaries and the standards because of the weight of the prophecy on your head, right? Because of the weight of the purpose for which God is calling you to share in your marriage. And so that was what Abraham did. Abraham knew that for the prophecy to come through, his son was supposed to get married to a Christian and not somebody that worships idols. Because when you get married to somebody, you are not just getting married to the person, but you are mingling generations, you are mingling spiritual ties, you are coming together to entangle and entwine spirituality and generational patterns and all that. There is a lot that go into marriage that some of us don't even know. And Abraham knew these things. That was why he set those boundaries. And I'm here to encourage you that as a young woman, or maybe you're a young man and you know that marriage is covenantal. Marriage is for the purpose of God. Marriage is God's kingdom agenda, God's kingdom business, and that God consider marriage very important. You are going to set those boundaries around maybe getting married to somebody that is godly, very important. Somebody with which your visions align, somebody with which your finances align, somebody with which your family ties align, right? And not just getting married to any person, because a lot of it lies and on the bedrock of those boundaries you create, who you choose and who you don't choose. Okay, so please, if you're in your choice, in making the choice of a partner, consider boundaries. Setting boundaries are very important, not just for you, but for the family you're going to raise, for the generations that is going to come out of it. And you don't want to bring things to adulterate. You don't want to bring negative idols. You don't want to bring negative cultures, negative systems into your home to adulterate the peace, to adulterate the godly home, to adulterate or to defile the sanctity of your intimate relationship with God, right? So I hope this video blessed you. Let me know in the comment section what you think, and also if you are a Christian woman who desires to grow spiritually, who desires to heal from past hurt, and who most importantly desires to make those boundaries, right boundaries, who desires to date right and to make the right choice of a partner for yourself, and just to make sure that you are getting ready for the relationship that God is calling you to. I encourage you to please let me know in the comment section. You can comment intentional, and I'm going to go ahead to send you the link to our WhatsApp community where women come together to heal, to grow spiritually, and to get aligned and prepare themselves spiritually, emotionally, and otherwise to nurture the relationships that God is bringing, to nurture the marriage that God is going to give them. So if that is you, comment intentional, and I'll be sure to join it, to send you the link so you can join our group. Okay.